Yo, boys, so I'm currently in Texas. I'm on a work trip. Working with my uncle, helping him in the company that he works for. He's a helicopter pilot and he sprays crops out here in Texas, and I'm out helping him. And as I'm out here in nature a lot, I have a lot of time to think about things, my past, God. I'm literally out in a field in pretty much the middle of nowhere. But I was just thinking about the life I used to live, man. And I was so consumed by smoking weed, by vaping, by pornography, all these things. And like, I remember so many times just going to sleep after just, smoking a blunt, or, I just hit the bong and then I go to sleep knowing that the next day I'm going to wake up feeling shame. I'm going to wake up and my stomach is going to be in immense pain. I'm going to feel like complete garbage. My head is going to be banging and I'm going to have to go to school through it all. And I remember doing this on repeat for months. For months, I was on repeat of just doing the same thing, living the same life, waking up, feeling shame, constantly feeling terrible internally, like literally my body, my stomach in immense amounts of pain, my head always just throbbing with a headache, always feeling like I was just a zombie, literally a zombie just walking around, my brain completely empty, no sorts of productive thoughts anywhere in my head. And that was my life for so long. I would just walk around a smoking zombie for literal years of my life. And, I did all these, I had gotten into smoking, first of all, because of my brother, it goes deeper than that. So I lost my dad when I was 6 years old, and that caused a lot of pain, a lot of, loss of direction in my life. I think every young man needs a good masculine father figure in his life, and I didn't grow up with that, and that caused a lot of pain in my household, a lot of confusion. And my stepdad, isn't the greatest influence, and he was the one who sort of started smoking in my household. He had already been doing it, and then my brother got into it, and then me and my sister got into it eventually. And at first it was just something to try. At first, smoking was just like, all right, let me just try it. That's how most people get into it. It's like, I'll try it once, I'll see if I like it, and usually people don't like it, but they keep doing it. And that was exactly how it felt for me. Like, I tried it once and I didn't like it at all. Like, I remember the first time I got high, it was off a cart, and we had wired it to the wall, and I took just this huge rip off of it, and I like low-key blacked out for a second. I was like, thought I died, and I was like screaming and yelling in my bed. It was a terrible first trip, and I remember just hating it. But I tried it again, and the next time wasn't so bad. Did it again. I actually kind of enjoyed it. And that's how most people fall down this cycle of getting addicted to something. Is they say they're going to try once and they fall into it, just like I did, and eventually it became a coping mechanism for all the things that I had been through, like my dad, passing away, and all that pain coming back up and resurfacing in my life, all the arguments in my household, with my mom and with everything, every day just hating living where I lived, every single day just wishing that, like, I could escape this pain. And my escape was smoking, my escape was drugs, my escape was pornography. Like, these were the ways that I escaped the life that I hated living so much. Maybe you're in that exact position. Maybe you're just smoking just because you enjoy the feeling. I enjoyed the feeling too. But a deeper issue, which a lot of people don't realize, is, we always do these things because of a deeper issue. And you need to be thinking about that if you really want to quit, is like, what's the deeper issue of me smoking? For me, it was all the pain from my past. I was letting my past have dominion over my future, over my present moments, and I was allowing all the things that had happened to me. I was being such a victim to what, the tests and trials in my life. And, I wasn't being a good steward of what God had given me. I wasn't, dealing with these challenges that I was being put through in a good way, and I don't blame myself. I didn't have anyone really there to teach me or, teach me these things, what to do and what not to do. But I could have done a lot better with, all the things that I had went through when I was younger. And I did, do pretty good with all of them. Like, I'm now out on the better side, Jesus has saved me, and that's the greatest feeling. But there's a long time where if I would have died in that moment, I probably would have gone to hell. And I know that's where a lot of guys are now, where they think about it. They think that if I were to die right now, think about it for yourself, bro. Like if you were to die right now, where would you go? Like, would God say that he knows you? Do you know God? Do you know who he is? What, are you saved? Have you repented of your sins? These are important things that we need to be thinking about, and it's just crazy to think about the life that I used to live, and it got to a point in my own life where I was literally so consumed in all of these things. By 16, I was, smoking weed, just vaping. By 17, I was doing other drugs, popping pills, drinking a lot, watching a lot of Korn all the time, talking to different girls. By 18, or by 17 too, doing new drugs that I'm not even going to say, and just doing terrible things to my body, not being a good steward of my body at all whatsoever, and completely just dishonoring God with every bit of my life. Every single day I woke up, I knew that I was going to fall back into the same things over and over. I would wake up, tap my vape or smoke, and then say, you know what, this is the last time. This is it. Sort of towards the end of 2025, the last couple of months, I really was trying to make a change. I was really trying to quit. So this is when all the shame started to flood in, all the guilt, because I was telling myself, all right, I'm going to quit today. Today's going to be the last day, and I'm just going to say no. It can't be that hard. I'm just cold turkey it. That's going to be the best way. Boom, next day, or no, not even next day, that same day, later that day, I would end up smoking. And I would do this over and over, and I was constantly breaking promises to myself. And I was trying to read my Bible, and I was getting closer to God, and I was understanding, what sin was and the cost of sin, and just all these things. And I was continuing to break these promises, wake up, feel shame and guilt. Every time I smoked, I felt such shame and guilt, knowing that it was wrong, knowing that I shouldn't do it. Every time I did other drugs and I drank or I watched porn, I just knew that these things were not of Christ, because I was starting to read my Bible. So I was having knowledge of what was right and wrong even more. I was feeling conviction, and I was ignoring all of the conviction that the Holy Spirit was bringing to me. The conviction that we feel is such a blessing. It allows us to know and to, guide us through life on what to do and what not to do. And I was completely ignoring it. And by ignoring it, I was only causing myself to feel so much more shame, so much more guilt. And it got to a point where I was literally I had decided that I was just going to smoke forever. Like, I had almost just given up. Right before I started getting closer to God and everything, it got to a point where I was just so consumed that I had just basically given up. There was literally a time in my life where I remember I told myself, you know what? I'm going to just vape for the rest of my life. I'm going to just smoke weed for the rest of my life. and I'm going to build my life around smoking and vaping. You know, I'm going to get a job where I can still function even while smoking. I'm going to do this, and that. You know, I would plan my days around when I could smoke and when I couldn't. You know, all these things. My life was completely consumed and built around smoking. And it just brought so much shame, so much guilt, and I felt so terrible all the time. Every day I woke up, I did not like the position I was in. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like the habits or disciplines that I had. And I was still working out. I was still doing stuff, but I was inconsistent. I wasn't honoring God with anything I was doing. And, you know, it was just so terrible. And really, like, the turning point for me, like, I remember one day earlier in 2026, I was in church. You know, I started trying to go to church more faithfully, you know, towards the end of 2025 when I was trying to get better. You know, I was still smoking, but it wasn't as bad, and that made me feel good. But I'm still going to church, still living this double life. And I remember that the pastor has said that they're going to do baptism. And as soon as he said that, I just felt this drop in my heart. Chills literally all over my body. Like, I remember it so vividly. As soon as he said it, I got hot, I got sweaty, I got chills all over my body. My heart just sank into my stomach. And you know why I felt that? It was because I knew, God knew for me that it was time to come home to him. I couldn't avoid God any longer. That was God speaking to me. And maybe God is speaking to you right now. Maybe you're feeling that same drop in your heart right now. Maybe you're getting chills watching this video. It's time, bro. As soon as I heard that, I knew that it was time to change. I knew that this was God calling me to get baptized and to change my life for him. Not for the people around me, not even, you know, for myself. Yes, for myself in a way, but for God. And as soon as the pastor said that, I had subconsciously made a decision that I was going to get baptized just because of that feeling. I couldn't say no. There was literally no part of me that was going to say no to getting baptized because I knew that I was trying to change. Everything pointed towards me changing for God. And that was the final straw. This video may be the final straw for you. But you have to decide if you're going to listen to that godly voice inside of you or if you're going to ignore it one more time. Who knows? This may be the last time before you harden your heart to Christ and it is too late. Pharaoh hardened his heart to Christ. And it took 10 different plagues and all these things for him to finally change. Don't let it be that for you. Decide to change right now. I remember, as soon as I got baptized, I did feel renewed. I felt so much better. I felt like I was actually making a change. Yet I still struggled a bit with smoking. I still struggled with vaping and all these things. Not as bad to the extent as I used to, you know, like very soon after I had gotten baptized, I had fully quit all these bad habits. But everything had just pointed towards me changing my life. And, you know, what finally made me quit all these things, because I'd gotten baptized, but I still sort of struggled. You know, like my older brother would come over and I would still vape, you know, tap his vape, or I would smoke with him. And eventually, after feeling more shame and guilt after that, even though I knew that I shouldn't be feeling the shame and the guilt, knowing that I'm imperfect, knowing that Jesus has forgiven me, the thing that really set me free truly, and that's given me more confidence to say no, even if I had that thing right in my face, because I have had it right in my face and I've said no, is actually following God. I know, it sounds simple. It sounds like, what is this guy talking about? I had to make a conscious decision to every day honor God. That's what change took. It took getting baptized, understanding that it was time for me to actually change, that the things that I was doing wasn't serving me, and how I actually had to allow God into my life. Like it says in Romans 12:2, I had to allow God to renew my mind internally so that I wasn't conformed to this world anymore. And what that took was every day reading my Bible, making time for God, making better habits that allowed God into my life daily. In my morning routine, waking up nice and early and getting into the Word of God. Middle of my day at some point, thinking about God, listening to worship music, and just fixating my mind on God throughout my day. And then at night, having time that I give specifically to God. You know, it took following God. It was difficult. Like, change was not easy, because change takes a huge amount of effort from you. It's uncomfortable. It sucks a lot of the time. You do things that you don't want to do, but you're doing it for God. You're doing it to grow closer to Him. And I had to realize at some point that this was just my new life. Once you accept that this is just the life you're living now, following God, it'll make it so much easier. You're not going to want to compromise. You're not going to want to compromise anymore, because you know that this is what you should be doing. And it took a lot of getting in the Word, praying a lot, praying for God to set me free. And it took honoring God. Truly, man, that was the biggest thing, was just every day trying to honor God with everything that I did in my life. And, you know, it was difficult. But finally, after, you know, a little bit of getting in my Word daily, you know, consciously throughout my day, putting effort towards God, it's really quite simple. Just make sure that you're praying to God, that you're believing in what God has promised to you. Believe that God is God, that He can change you, that He is the living God who healed lepers of their leprosy, that healed the blind, who healed the sick, who forgave the seemingly unforgivable people. And He'll start to change you. That's what it took for me. I had to believe that Christ was Lord, and that if I grew closer to Him, that He would renew my mind. And that's exactly what He did. Through my habits, through my disciplines, through making time for Him, through honoring God with my body, my health, my mind, and what I was, you know, thinking about throughout the day. And dude, now I don't fall to the same temptations that much anymore. You know, I say that much because, well, I don't really fall into the same temptations anymore. I notice myself sort of flirting with them here and there and then saying no, but which still isn't good. But that's such an improvement to when, as soon as I was tempted, I would give in. And I don't do that anymore. And it feels so good being confident that if I were to die right now, like, I'd meet Jesus and I'd go to heaven, because there's nothing that I could do or could have done to enter heaven. It's God's grace. It's God's grace upon my life, and that He loves me so much, and Jesus being sent and dying for my sins, that gets me into heaven. So I hope this video could help you boys. I just wanted to give a quick sort of testimony video, you know, just explain sort of how I went from smoking pretty much every day of my life to living for God and spreading the word on social media and trying to help other guys with the same thing that I went through. So, you know, if that's something you're interested in, I am currently trying to build out a program to help other guys make this same transformation. If that's something you're interested in, follow my Instagram, I'll keep y'all posted and updated with what's going on with that. Hope you boys enjoyed. Peace.